what do you know about 9/11? And with all these questions, there's no right answer, okay? But there's just, what do you know? Just walk us through, right? Lexi, you want to start?
So, hi all, my name's Lexi Wells. I'm a junior from South Jersey. My major is Management Information Systems. So from what I know or learned about 9/11 was that it was something that's definitely tragic that happened to our country. Some personal family friends have been affected from it. Like some of my close family friends, they lost their father during 9/11. My aunt was in New York during 9/11.
Your mom was what?
My aunt was in New York on 9/11 for her job, and she's still affected by that to this day. But I also know that 9/11 has perpetuated a lot of stereotypes against Black and brown people in the country. And that is also that's also harmed people from the Middle East as well because they're perpetuated as terrorists when that's not the case. So that's what I've learned so far from it.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Halima. I'm Pakistani, but I lived in Massachusetts. I was born here, and my parents were in New York actually when 9/11 happened. They weren't anywhere near Twin Towers, thank God, but they were in New York. I was also born in New York. What I know about 9/11 is I think that people in America and people in this country and in the world in general tend to see people's differences very easily. So I think that as Muslims in America, we were people that others saw as different. And as soon as 9/11 happened, there was now like a label to put on us. Like we were now terrorists, we were now towel heads, we were different than other people. And this effect has had there's so many negative effects to this day. Like Muslims like me, and I don't wear the hijab, but people who do wear the hijab and who are more prominently and apparently Muslim experience Islamophobia every day of their lives.
So does your mom cover?
No, she doesn't. My grandmother does.
So were your parents born in Pakistan?
Yes.
Okay. Have you been there, by the way?
Yeah, I've only visited once though.
Okay.
My name is Mohammed Mansi. I am from Saudi Arabia, and I'm a sophomore. I'm doing chemical engineering. And I guess what I know about 9/11 is that it was absolutely terrifying for U.S. citizens and for the whole world. Speaking like my grandpa was actually here in the U.S. by the time that 9/11 happened, and from his stories I can tell how the way people treat him was differently right after that day or that week in specific. It was actually followed by a couple of bombings that happened back home in Saudi Arabia post 9/11 and before 9/11. So it was terrifying. It generated a lot of stereotypes about Muslims in general or Saudis in specific. And it hurt us and it terrifies us in a two-way. It's a two-sided thing. For the first part, because we were of course afraid for the U.S., which is a key partner to our country, and as well as the bombings that happened in our country from the same terrorist group. And from the other side, it was also it generated a stereotype. So we were worried that the other or our social image would be different in front of the rest of the world. So,
okay. All right.
Yeah, it was really heavy.
Yeah, so I have I'll have some questions for you in a minute.
Hi, so I'm Jazzy. I'm from New York.
New York City?
Yeah, no, Long Island, but I'm 20 minutes from the city.
All right.
And my dad's Persian, so he's actually born in Iran. My mom's Egyptian. So after 9/11, I definitely saw how people treated my dad and how things changed.
Wait, but you're Jewish, right?
I'm Jewish, yeah.
Okay.
Both parents.
All right, okay.
So I definitely saw how stuff changed after 9/11 and how people were treating people from the Middle East. And I know a lot of people that were affected by 9/11. Like being from New York, a lot of people worked in the city. My dad was in the city when it happened. So it really hits home. Because I think at least 30 kids just in my school were affected by it, like their parents, their aunts, their uncles. So it was really...
When you say affected, meaning they worked in the towers?
Yeah, they worked in the towers.
Yeah, okay. Do you have people from your school whose parents
Yeah.
or grandparents died?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, again, I have a couple questions for you, but let's go with Taylor.
Hi, I'm Taylor. I'm a senior. I'm a digital and print journalism major, and I'm from Maryland. Thankfully, I don't have as awful of connections to 9/11 as the rest of them.
So I'm gonna stop you though for a second. So go right back to the question. What have you learned about it from school? And you're a journalism major, so this is big for you, right? Like,
Yeah.
what have you?
So in school, like, we never really learned about it. Everything that I know about 9/11 is either through documentaries that I've seen or from what my parents have told me. My mom, she kind of tells me more about it, kind of just like about how like scared she was that day, how she had to go home and like pick me up and that there was like no one on the roads, how she could see the smoke from the Pentagon from where she worked. So it was kind of just a really scary time for a lot of people. And I know that it caused 2 wars that probably didn't actually need to happen. A lot of death on both sides, not just on the American side, but also in the Middle East. And it's caused a lot of turmoil and a lot of strife in the Middle East as well, over a war that's kind of hard to define because you can't fight an ideology like that, especially in an area that you have no connections to.
So, okay, Mohammed, let me go back to you, right? What do they teach in Saudi Arabia? Like, what did you learn in school about 9/11? You did your high school in Saudi, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think there was much of a focus on what happened on 9/11 in specific, but I think what our schools focused on was the anti-radicalism movement for Islam in specific.
So they focused on the growth of radical Islamic ideology.
Exactly.
And what, just educating you to secularize you, to not radicalize you, to like what? To combat that, you mean?
I don't think that was the case. It was pretty much taking me back to the roots of my religion of Islam and how peaceful and loving of a religion it is.
Got you. Okay. Yeah, which is kind of like that. Like, so really focusing on the religious side and not the...
Exactly.
So do you remember, like, have you watched videos?
I have.
Yeah.
I've seen all the videos of 9/11.
But you didn't like see those in school or anything?
No, we didn't, like, in schools back home, we don't really focus on the events as much as the ideology that goes behind that.
Yep, got you. Halima, what'd you learn in school?
So I went to school in Massachusetts, and while I think we did talk about 9/11, I think it was mostly only on that one day of a year. You know, when we had the moment in silence, we did talk about the tragedy and the lives that were lost. And there's one thing that I have noticed that's happened a lot in my classes is that whenever people are talking about 9/11 and they are talking about these terrorist attacks, they call these people Islamic terrorists. And like that's something that has bothered me like all these years in school because honestly, these people do not represent Islam in any way, shape, or form. But there's always been this focus on calling it Islamic terrorism. And there's been so many other events that have happened, so many other tragedies that have happened where people who aren't black and brown weren't labeled as terrorists for committing those same acts of violence.
So for you, as someone who is Muslim, for you, one of the things that you've really zeroed in on and focused on was the ways in which you and other Muslims have been portrayed in particular ways. Like things that maybe somebody like Lexi, Lexi, you may mention to it, right? But maybe somebody else wouldn't pay attention to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so do your teachers talk about, like, on the anniversary of 9/11? Do you remember? Did people talk about it?
Yeah, we would talk about it, but I think that it was a little different from the way like Muhammad was Mo was talking about. I think we focused a little more on the tragedy than we did about the ideology and the after effects in class. I think, which is important. You know, there were so many lives that were lost that day. It is very important to talk about that tragedy and the lives that were impacted. But I think there were many lives that were impacted in many different ways. Yeah, I think we should focus on all of those different ways.
Well, the issue is, I think what you're saying, what I'm hearing you say, and what I'm hearing Muhammad say is that actually the radicalization that led to this is actually quite problematic and something that is much bigger, much more massive, and potentially much more deadly over the long run.